the Chiefs, even with all their struggles, have seemed like they really can't lose, even against teams like the Panthers. What? Bryce Young? Excuse me? Going off? We can still preview that for later. But it's the Chiefs and their defense that has struggled in the past 5 weeks. Possibly getting Isaiah Pacheco back. Is that right? Are we getting Pacheco back in this game?
He should
I
be.
wouldn't.
Okay, we don't know
I
for
can't.
sure.
Why would they bring him back in this game? I
Yeah,
don't
he
get
is.
it.
He's
That's a fair
questionable
question.
going in.
But I think that this is all getting back to my point of even with the struggling defense, they're playing against a team. This is kind of similar to the Giants, where it feels like they've maybe given up on their coaching staff or on this iteration of the Las Vegas Raiders. I don't trust them in this game, especially not against Patrick Mahomes, who, no matter what, is going to be motivated against that team after the hijinks they pulled with the Kermit the Frog puppet. I don't know how much that actually means to him, but I tell you what does mean something to him. The Chiefs loss to the Raiders at home on Christmas for the world to see. A huge, they were able to go on a run after that game that had led up to the Bills game that they lost last week, finally. But between those two losses, I think this Raiders game, still a divisional game, means a lot to this Chiefs team. They're not going to treat it as a trap game, and I think they're going to take it to get right. What do you guys think?
I think you can just boil it down to a Las Vegas Raiders team who scored fewer than 20 points in 7 of their last 8 games. They've lost Gardner Minshew. You're starting Aiden O'Connell right now. The Chiefs seem like a team that'll be able to blow the doors off this game. But short week. We should mention short week for the Chiefs isn't ideal. But yeah, the one hesitancy I would say is games with more than 3 days rest that their double-digit favorites are. They're 0-3-1 against the spread. 12-point spread, but you do factor in Aiden O'Connell. But the one thing I would say for the Las Vegas Raiders is the one bright spot that they have on the defensive side of the ball is Max Crosby, and he's the guy who's terrorized Patrick Mahomes. If not just terrorized, just kind of being an asshole to him. Like every time he throws him down, every time he gets a sack, just saying something like, maybe this is a game where they galvanize and cover a 12-point spread. They're not going to. I don't expect them to win the game whatsoever with Aiden O'Connell back there, especially with how good the Chiefs' defensive side of the ball is playing. Chris Jones is playing out of his mind. I think if it gets, I would take him at 13.5. At that point, you're just betting to win like $2. So, I think take the Chiefs. I think betting them to win by 2 touchdowns is not crazy. And it has been interesting to see, though, how the defensive side of the ball has really carried them, to this point for the Chiefs. I mean, Travis Kelce has slowed down. He really didn't do anything last week. It was all Blake Bell. It's interesting to see how Patrick Mahomes is able to spread the ball out to the playmakers that are available for them. And as you mentioned, Pat, Isaiah Pacheco, I think this could be a big game for him. Raiders have really struggled on stopping the run. I think Chiefs win this, but I'm very hesitant to put the 12 on them. Over-unders at 42.5. Maybe go under here just because I think the Raiders will also struggle to move the ball as well. I don't know if there's 28-14 in anyone's future in this game. Just depending on how the Raiders are able to move the ball down the field against this Chiefs defense.
Yeah, I think this is an absolute must-win for Kansas City. You look at their last 6 games. I think it's going to be really difficult for them to come across wins later on. There's not much of a cushion between them and Buffalo. And you look, they got Vegas this week. They have the Chargers next week. They're at Cleveland. Then they got Houston, at Pittsburgh, and then at Denver. That's a pretty difficult schedule, and those are 3, if not 4, playoff teams in the last 6 weeks of the season. And then we know Cleveland's still ready to play every week. So I think they're going to really look at this game like a must win, because it's going to be really close at the end between them and Buffalo, who gets that number 1 seed. But yeah, ultimately, I think they're going to take care of business because they have to, but also because of just, I think, a lack of I don't want to say talent, but availability, I would say, particularly to that Raiders offensive line. It feels like they've just been having some struggles. I think it started when they had to put Jackson Powers Johnson at guard as opposed to center. Andre James hasn't had a great year. Hopefully they reset everything this year. Mark Davis is selling more and more of that team each
Deion
week.
watch?
So, yeah. So
Are we on Deion Fedor watch?
And Christian, I think it also you can also just boil it down to coaching for this game. You put Andy Reid up against Antonio Pierce. You take that at face value. I just don't see how you go against Andy Reid at this point.
Antonio Pierce is quoted. I believe the quote was that he has the recipe for defeating the Chiefs. And I know that he cooked up a Christmas dinner that the Chiefs did not like so much last year with that recipe. So you got to keep an eye out for that, whatever that's supposed to mean. But I don't think that Aiden O'Connell is an ingredient in that recipe.
It's called that's the same thing as looking at boiling steaks.
Yeah. Yeah. Recipes don't always. You got to get the cook right every single time. I'm not sure Aiden O'Connell's the chef for it. But do we have any more thoughts in that game, or can we end it on that note?
Do you have a pick for that one, Pat?
Oh yeah, I got the Chiefs winning. Yeah, I think the Chiefs.
I like D-Hop to score. D-Hop's been a touchdown machine.
D-Hop has been a touchdown machine.
Oh, I mean the Chiefs. Yeah, and I would take the Chiefs to cover. I think that this game that they need a get right game. They really do. Again, after the showing against the Panthers last week, that almost felt like a loss for them. And I do expect them to win big in this game.
Also, one more note on it. I am curious to see how the breakdown is going to be. Travis Kelce was relatively quiet in the game against the Panthers. Blake Bell was kind of the featured tight end in that game. Maybe that was, you'd think, just out of game script, but it was a very tight game that they only won the field goal. I'd be curious to see how that breakdown is going to play out going into this game, especially at home. On a Friday, you're the only game in there. I think he may be featured a lot in this game. Maybe look at his over receptions.
Nice. That's why you come to the Bulletin Board Sports podcast, is for some of these sneaky prop picks from our resident sharp, Mr. Mike.